Today, on the Fit Stoic Podcast, episode 21, Become Like the Gods. This is a fun chapter, very dramatic. We're going to look at why we need to focus on self-control so that we can experience the only invincibility that's available to us. All right, welcome to the show. I'm Corey Samuelson. So this is chapter 15 of the Gymchiridion, entitled Become Like the Gods. Begin quote. By living with self-control, you will have become like the gods. You'll be able to move about, invincible to the unpredictable winds of change that buffet those dependent on externals for their experience. If you focus on the externals, you will forget who you are and what is in your power. Then nothing will be to your advantage. But when you know who you are and where lies your power, whatever is at hand will be the perfect material to create excellence. And as that material passes, as it must, you will let it go, knowing that it's all okay. You have all the resourcefulness you need to deal with whatever occurs. End quote. First things first, what do I mean by like the gods? Epictetus, the ancient Stoic philosopher, he explained that a part of us, the most important part, was given to us by Zeus. This is our ability to make choices. And by using this part well, we need never be hampered or obstructed or experience harm. In other words, we will have a smoothly flowing life when we use this part, this godlike part of ourselves, well. The way that I put it is that when we live with self-control, when we operate with self-control in the moment of choice, that is as close to invincible as we can get. There's no way that we can become physically invincible. We can definitely get hurt. We can definitely die and go through some serious hardship physically. We can't choose our results, as I've said over and over again during these episodes. The only thing that we can choose is how we respond to those results. So we make choices, but we don't choose the results of those choices. But making the choice, that's our invincibility. So regardless of what happens to us, we have it within us to direct our experience. So the way that most people go through life, if they don't really consider or sit down and really think about what's happening, most people are sitting in traffic and they're frustrated. So traffic equals frustration. These are examples I've used in the past. These external circumstances, however, don't have those experiences inherent in them. It's our interpretation of those circumstances. So with our godlike ability, we can alter and direct our experience regardless of what's happening. So stuck in traffic, you can be thinking about things that you're going to do in the future. You can imagine possibilities. You can be reminiscing about something in your past. And that totally changes the experience. However, if you're, again, sitting in the traffic, thinking about how this is causing you problems, that is a very normal way of going through life and of living those experiences. But that is something that is up to us, our attitude as we sit in the traffic. One of the things I wrote about here is that if you get carried away by the circumstances, by the externals, you can forget who you are. I've talked about this in the past as well, that what I consider and what Epictetus considered the essence of the self is the proeresis, and that is the faculty of choice. And when we get swept up in the externals, especially if they're challenging, then we forget who we are. We forget that we have that choice, and we simply let the opinions of others, the circumstances we find ourselves in, we let those dictate our experience. And that can happen to anybody, Stoics included, right? Only the Stoic sage is at the level of being able to just have nothing hinder his or her smoothly flowing life. So don't beat yourself up if the circumstances that you're in are running away with your experience, with your ability to choose. Just allow yourself to take a moment or 2 or 3 or 10, however long it takes. Just remember that that is who you are. You are, in essence, choice. So you can choose a different experience. So traffic doesn't have to equal frustration. When we do this well, then it doesn't matter what is going on, what our circumstances are, what people think about us, what they say about us. We can create excellence out of any material. Now again, the Stoic sage does this just out of habit. For ourselves, we actually need to put some effort into this and to put some thought into it and to remember, to remind ourselves, right, I don't have to be miserable. I don't have to be stressed. I can choose something different for myself. The circumstances in which we find ourselves always change. Nothing lasts forever. So whether we are in a situation or a circumstance in which we would prefer not to be, or even if we're in one that we are completely happy being in, they're going to change. Again, remind yourself that it's all okay. Because it's important to start thinking about the externals as less important as a resource than it is to believe in your own resourcefulness. Because, again, the norm is to become dependent on externals. So, for example, I don't have access to a gym, so I can't work out properly. Now, the gym is a resource, and it's a very convenient resource. They have all the equipment that a person might need often, if it's a good gym. And being at home in these circumstances, for example, we don't have the same resources. However, if you have resourcefulness, if you yourself are resourceful, then the circumstances, they don't matter. You can still work out. You can still create that experience of health and fitness by choosing to exercise regardless. Finding a way, talking to a trainer, looking something up online, reading a book. That's the resourcefulness that really matters. By asking intentional questions, as I call them, IQs, you can direct your awareness to options that you may not be aware of if you just think, well, I can't get to the gym, I can't work out. Instead, ask yourself, how can I work out even without the equipment? How can I adapt household items or things that I find in the garage? Or could I go somewhere else? Could I maybe use a playground? These are questions that will then start to open up possibilities, and the imagination is and has been called the most godlike aspect of ourselves. It's not exactly what the Stoics were saying in the prorasis and the faculty of choice, but it is definitely tied into that. Because by imagining our choice and what our choice could be, what would I like to have happen? What are the possibilities? We have to be able to imagine that. And we choose to use the imagination. So they're tied very closely together. And I really like that aspect of that resourcefulness within us, so that we don't have to be dependent on the resources, the external material resources that we have. That is one of the most fundamental aspects of ourselves. That's that human adaptability. So if you want to become like the gods, it's through your ability to choose your own experience, to choose excellence as a standard that you can create from whatever the external circumstances and materials that you have on hand. It's taking advantage of your own internal resources to be able to imagine a better circumstance and to work toward it, but to focus not on the external, but to focus instead on what you're doing with your choices. So when you're faced with an obstacle, what are you choosing? When you are faced with an opportunity, what are you choosing? By choosing to operate with virtuous self-control, by striving for excellence in the moment of choice, we will have become like the gods. That is the only invincibility that is open to us. That is what allows us to be unhindered, to be free of obstacles, to never experience harm. And that's a choice. That ability to imagine a better experience that is very commonly just accepted and thought to be dictated by circumstance. But we can be different. We can experience something better. And that lies within our self-control. If you'd like a free PDF of the Gymchiridion, go to gymmanual.com. It's been great having you here today. Thanks for listening. This is Corey. Until we meet again, whatever your circumstance, operate with excellence.